Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another Figma review, and this time, once again, it is Overwatch. And of course, this character does not need any introduction whatsoever. This is the awesome D.Va. If you haven't seen it yet already, I did do a review of the Figma Reaper. You can check that out if you haven't seen it yet. And as usual, this video right here would not be possible without those absolutely awesome people over at HobbyLink Japan. So if you do want one of your own, there is a link down there in the description. Now let's get right into it. So first off, let's get her out of that box. I just realized I have absolutely nothing worthwhile at all to try and open this with. Ugh, this is the bluntest, crappiest nippers in the world. Thanks, Citadel. Aye, but 'tis open. So the first thing I will mention is there isn't a whole lot of anything going on in here. This is one very featureless Figma, but I guess out of her mech, D.Va here doesn't really have a whole lot going on. And speaking of which, and my biggest gripe about this figure right here has nothing to do with the figure itself. It's the fact that Good Smile Company and Max Factory and whatnot have their own model kit line, which is Moderoid. And when I saw this being released, this Figma right here, I was like, God damn, they better make a D.Va mech that this Figma can fit into, because that would be unreal cool, but they didn't bother their arses anyway. Maybe I can manage to crush her into the Funko Pop one? Maybe? Probably not. That is enough belly aching. Here she is. So anyway, that right there is exactly what she looks like just when she's taken out of the box with nothing done besides a little bit of a pose. So instead of me going off and telling you why this is good, why it's not good, etc, etc, I'm just gonna throw the spin up of this on the right, as well as some images and stuff of her character art, her from the game, etc on the right, so you can make your own decisions while I talk through a few of the features on this figure right here. So first up, as for the style of this particular character here, I would say it's a little closer to what we saw in the animated short when it comes to the facial features. It's not as cutie as the actual in-game character model, more like the one from that particular short. So I don't know the actual technical term for this, so if you know what it is, drop it down there, sound off in the comments, but this isn't your standard painted face like you would see on most anime-style Figma. This is more akin to the kind of realistic print that they use on more realistic faces, so it may not show up so much in the camera right here, but if you get in real close, and I mean real close, this has somewhat of a grainy look. I guess it's part of the way they print it or whatever. Once again, I don't know what this is technically called, so if you do know, drop in the comments and I will pin it. But all in all, it does look absolutely fantastic. Looking good so far. So moving down to the body now, and this also looks fantastic. There's a couple of things that do kind of distract me a little bit, and that would be the shoulder joints. They kind of push her shoulders out quite a little bit, but depending on the way you angle it, that won't be any sort of problem. Besides that, the paint apps for the most part are absolutely fantastic. There are a couple of very minor bits of paint going outside the lines, but this is only noticeable in extreme close-ups. Besides that though, those little decals, the Mecha one, APM TV, Fighting, that one in Korean I can't read, as well as Blizzard, all look fantastic. All in all, visually, this thing looks beautiful. So now moving on to the accessories, and there's the Figma D.Va with absolutely everything that she comes with. So in here, of course, we get that standard Figma stand. Still to this day, this is my favorite action figure stand that I also use with Gunpla, everything. This thing is the best. Nothing compares. As well as that, then we've got a rack of 8 hands, 3 separate hands, including one holding a phone. We've got an alternate Winky Face. Okay. Insert your own filthy joke there. I'm not stooping to that. But we've got an extra head. As well as that, then we've got that bubblegum bubble, her blaster, as well as that can. And speaking of that can, this doesn't come with a label. They come separately as stickers. You can see them right there. Peel them off, stick them on. I guess you get 2 in case you screw up the first one. And besides that, we've just got that base adapter piece and a spare wrist. So first up, taking a look at the hands, and speaking of which, I did just log into Overwatch right there to check out the highlight intros and poses so I can try them out with this figure, and it turned out I actually ended up getting 2 endorsement boxes, so let's check them out. So garbage and more garbage. The usual. So speaking of hands anyway, we've got those standard widespread open hands we've seen since the beginning of this review. This rack of 8 hands here, including a right and a left that link up to make that heart shape, a pair of basic fists, a left and a right hand that look like they're for holding the blaster, and a pair of standard Figma 3mm holding hands. Besides that, then we've got a right hand holding the cell phone, left hand making a peace symbol, and a left hand for holding the can, of course. So as for the faces, we've got that standard face we've seen already, just looking directly forward with a fairly blank expression, a little bit on the cheerful side. Of course, we've got that classic D.Va Winky Face.
Winky Face
And lastly then, of course, is, this one. And that is the bubble blowing face. Honestly, doesn't look nearly as bad like that. Pretty cool, actually. To swap them out, it's the usual way of popping off the front of the hair, taking off that face, whoa, come back headphones, sticking on the face that you want, and then back on with the hair. So finally then we've got a whole alternate head completely. This just attaches pretty simply, just pull off the standard head, stick this one on like that, and all the faces we looked at already are completely compatible with this version right here. But anyway, there's a quick spin of them side by side with each of the faces on so you can see what they look like. So there is a lot of variation here. Of course, this hat is not present in the actual game itself. It is from that short she was in. However, it is a bit of a cheap cop-out in a way, because it would have been nice to see a whole variant in that costume as opposed to just a hat. All in all though, it is a very nice extra and it does change the feel of the figure drastically. It does have a bun round back instead of the hair all loose and flowing. So regardless, it's still pretty cool. So now that we've seen all the faces and the hands, let's check if we can pull off some of her classic poses and highlight intros. So by going back to the classic head with the bubblegum, and by lashing on that peace hand right here, and also borrowing this here Funko Pop, because Modroid didn't bother. So first up, we're going to try that peace victory pose, which is the same as the lying around highlight intro. So does this work out? Not really, for multiple reasons. I mean, it's meant to look like this, and no. Honestly, it all falls down to the head and the face here. She doesn't have a looking up face, and on top of that, there isn't enough articulation in her hair to bring it back behind her head, flowing over the mecha like we see in the game. So this one here is a fail. So next I decided to go for the sitting victory pose because I thought it would only take me 2 seconds because it's so simple, but boy was I wrong. Basically because of the general lack of real estate on the Funko Pop's arm, she kept falling off, and when she fell off she had a tendency to go bald, which isn't really a good look for you. So yeah, don't do that. So I did actually manage to pull it all together and get her on there without her falling off. It did turn out okay, and just okay. Blizzard's massive polystone statue this is not, but it's still kinda cute. Once again, this would be so much better if Good Smile Company and Max Factory actually made a Modoroid for it. But all in all, I'd say, pass. So next up then on the pose chopping block is I Heart You. And honestly, this was the easiest one to pull off, and in my personal opinion, the best looking one out of the bunch so far. This looks great. It's so simple, so effective, and it can pull off the pose absolutely perfectly. Of course, there is one difference you may have noticed. That, of course, is the face. This here is the Winky Face, which I actually do prefer with this pose, compared to the actual original one, which is more of a, so stoned kind of looking face. This one looks much better. So this time, it's nailed it. So the next pose is this one right here, which of course is the Selfie highlight intro. And of course, this one would be possible because it's pretty much splattered there on the back of the box. So this one was a given. So although it does definitely pass, I do have one bit of a minor issue with it, and this I would have glossed over completely if I didn't notice one little aspect about it. So she doesn't do that kind of kissy face thing that she does in the actual game, and I was like, fair enough, they didn't do that, that's no big deal, until I realized what they did. It's the same damn face as this one right here. They just printed a little bit of a winky eye on it. Otherwise, physically, it's the exact same faceplate, so they just took the lazy route. So that, a little bit, is a bit on the cheap ass side. Don't do that. But all in all, it does pretty well on that, so pass. So next up in here then, of course, is her blaster, and this does look pretty cool, especially that little D.Va decal on the side there, but I can't help but feel this isn't up to standard Figma quality, at least not the quality I was used to back when I used to review these all the time. It looks a little bit sloppy. The mold looks a little bit soft and almost melty looking, and the paint on there could be a little bit neater, a little bit cleaner. All in all, this does feel a bit like an afterthought, and to me, the blaster is an extremely important part of this, especially because, well, it's the only real accessory besides the can in here, so it could look better, but again, it could look a whole lot worse. Anyway, while I am talking about accessories that are in here, there is also the can, which I just mentioned. That's what it looks like there. Let's take a brief look at the top of it right there. It's fairly basic, but honestly, when I saw that short, all I could think of is, I wish cans came like that. Those are some epic looking cans. But anyway, this thing needs a label, let's stick it on. So they come as fairly basic stickers like this. I recommend, when applying stickers, to use a toothpick to do so. It's a lot easier. And it would be a lot easier if it wasn't on the other side of a camera too. So let's try and line this up nicely. We do have 2 in here in case we screw up, but Doesn't look too bad. And there we go, that little can of Nano Cola. I'm not going to do a pose with this because I couldn't be bothered. But anyway, that's what it would look like once you stick it into the hand. Be careful not to peel off that label when you stick it in. But all in all, pretty cool. There's what it would look like if it was attached. So the last pose I'm going to pull off here is Eject, the highlight intro, and it really does feel like this figure was built around this pose because it pulls it off flawlessly. This looks absolutely and utterly perfect. Nailed it right here. Absolutely nailed it. Also, this pose right here completely negates what I said about this face before, because if they gave this face the kissy face, then it wouldn't work in this at all. So once again, it feels like this figure was built around this specific pose, and then the parts were used for other things. So I take that back. I take it back completely. Still doesn't excuse the fact there's no Moderoid. Alright, so now moving on to the articulation and posability, and I'm just curious, do you guys prefer this before the accessories or after? Because I tend to just do it after, but let me know. So first up, she does have a little bit of articulation at the bottom of her hair here. This just allows her to look upwards like so, but doesn't really hold up when she's not looking up like that, but it is handy. Up inside there, you can see that she's got a double jointed neck, which gives her a serious giggity, look at that. But besides that, then we got up, down, bald, side to side tilt, lost headphones, and there's looking side to side, and more than likely that'll go all the way around, but that might flip the joint, and that can be annoying. We've got another double joint inside the shoulder here. We've got a standard ball joint in the torso there, and we've got this joint here which allows the arm to move up like so, and down like that. So all in all, that gives us a grand total of all the way up like that, all the way down like that. The ball joint in there allows us to hide the joint from whatever perspective you want, and that can spin that whole 360. Minor rotation up here at the top. It is in the full 360 degrees. We can spin these joints down here at the elbow. There is the bend. This could be a little bit better for some poses like this one right here. And at the wrist, we've got your standard Figma ball joint, which allows for that. Spins, lots of things, pretty much everything you'd like. So now it's torso time. There is the ab crunch all the way to the front, all the way to the back. So that is the full range of motion. Pretty good. There is side to side there, and that is fantastic. We also have rotation there that brings her, wow, quite, well, it'll go the whole way around, but once again, that could flip the joint and make it a little bit wonky, so I'm not going to do that. Down at the hips now, this segment can pull down like so to give you a little bit extra. And as for the kick, all the way up, there we go, pretty good. All the way out to the back, not bad as well. And finally, as for the splits, we've got that right there. So not the whole way down, but not too bad. Full rotation here for those epic spin kicks. There's that bend at the knee. Once again, pretty good, but could be better. And at the ankle, we've all the way down like that, all the way up like so. That side to side pivot, pretty good. And a bend at the toe. So all in all, D.Va here is rocking some solid articulation. Pretty damn good. So anyway, that right there is it for the review. And although I did have a couple of minor complaints throughout this, I highly recommend this figure. It is fantastic. It looks great, the paint's great, the face is great. It pulls off some of the classic poses really well, some of them not so much, but for the most part, it nails them. On this one right here, I do find the front hair section can be a little bit on the loose side. She can go bald quite often. The quality of the blaster could have been tightened up a little bit more, but it's still quite good for just an accessory. And all in all, on the whole, I do love this. Again, my biggest gripe is the fact that they never made a Moderoid Mecha. Why the hell not? How cool would it be to have an actual 2-scale Mecha to go with her? One that you can build like Gunpla or something like that, with all the articulation, all the awesomenesses, all of that, but they didn't do it, so that sucks. But anyway, this right here is solid and awesome. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. If you do want one of your own, there's a link down there in the description. You can get yours at Hobby Link Japan. It would be much appreciated if you considered leaving a like. It really does help out the channel. Lets me know if you want to see more Figma reviews. And as always, I'll see you next time. So once again, all my thanks to each and every one of you guys, whether you just watch my videos, or you support me through my channel memberships, or over on Patreon. Thank you so much. If you are interested in helping out the channel, of course, you can become a channel member, or check out the link to Patreon down there in the description. And as usual, thank you to my Gundarium tier patrons, Bolwick, Vex, Samuel Sebastian, and Kaiser721.